beautiful place. Partnerships. National. Unity and diversity. A partnership for national unity. Guyana's future in our hands.
Trafficking, there is gun trafficking, and there's a lot of illegal weapons within the society. Other crimes where people are being killed for sometimes paltry things.
There is no, I insist, there is no breakdown of law and order in Guyana. Like you and like everyone over here, we live in this country, we can walk about this country, we can work, we can have fun, we can have leisure, we can do all we want to do in this country without looking over our shoulders. There is no, I insist, there is no breakdown of law and order.
Now here's the whole truth in the 2005 U.S. government narcotics report on Guyana. The U.S. Embassy in Guyana estimates that narcotics traffickers earn $150 million annually and possibly much more. News media routinely report on instances of corruption reaching high levels of government that go uninvestigated and unpunished. The drug trade generates violent armed groups who act as if they are above the law.
5 years later, nothing has changed.
Guyana's future in our hands.
Welcome back. Before we went to break, Ainsley explained that it's a bit difficult to get youths to be on board in terms of uplifting their ID cards and voting and these kind of things. Ainsley, why is that so difficult?
Well, quite frankly, I think that a lot of people are just plain fed up of voting, because I would have heard people expressing their feelings about the current administration and having bad experiences while voting. People are of the perception that the current administration, PPP I should say, is going to rig the elections, and they have rigged the elections before. This is not coming from me, this is coming from the people in the street. So they look at it as a waste of time if they were to vote. So collecting ID cards and making themselves eligible to vote, that's like something on the back of the burner for most people. And then there's the other part of the population who are just plain afraid. You know, they're afraid to speak out about certain things. They're afraid to actually go cast their votes. And this has stemmed from the government itself instilling fear into the population, and it's ridiculous.
Okay. Jamal, your take on voting, victimization, and fear?
Well, as for voting, I actually don't believe it's a privilege for any person. As a citizen of any country, it's actually your right and your duty to go and vote. So when when I hear about people say, well, I didn't bother to register, or I just ain't able, it's a bit vexing, because here you are, you're saying you have this one issue with your country and you have the power to change it, and yet you're going to tell me you're not going to even try. And when the same thing happens again, you're still going to complain. So when it comes to voting, it's really, you have no choice. You have to vote. You have to, if you feel that there's something going on that you don't like, you have to say, okay, well, fine, I'll vote to change it. At least you made the effort. In terms of fear of victimization, victimization is something that happens all over the world, for one. In Guyana, it seems to be a bit more prevalent, in my personal experience, than it is in other places. But that seems to be, once again, it goes back to the whole voting thing. There's been an environment of, complacency, of just taking what we get, more or less to speak, from whether it be, the police or, whatever minister, this and that. But once again, these are issues that can be turned around if you don't like it, do something about it. You don't like me, tell me. You understand? We might fight. So, you did something about it. So, you can't really, and also on that fair thing, you can't be scared. Okay. In any society, I gave this example to a friend the other day. In any society, there will always be you know, that one group of dissidents who don't like how the society is run, who will be vocal about it. And they'll say, well, we don't like this. And whether they be right or whether they be wrong, in most cases they're usually right. You know, those people aren't scared to stand up and hold one head and say, well, we don't like this, and this is what we're doing to change it. And they're not, you know, they're not scared of retribution. There was an example I can use from this place in, far away, Tunisia, where this guy set himself on fire, and he spread this dude set himself on fire because somebody, you know, pushed him or did something. I can't even remember the whole thing. But he did this one thing, and it sparked a more or less a revolution. They're still fighting. Over what? I have no idea, because I didn't really follow up on the story, but it's amazing that this one person who had the courage to stand up for his rights, you know, not a privilege that he was afforded by, you know, his parents, like, oh, well, you could watch TV, that's a privilege. Your parents saying, oh, you could breathe, that's your right. So, you know, he was afforded, you know, he stood up for his rights, and it just sparked this whole thing. And, you know, it's going to have some sort of positive outcome. You can't really be scared to be that one dissident voice. You can't be, you know, so if you don't like it, change it.
As we're on the note of fear, I know this has been a recurring issue in our society, but I'm going to pitch this to you, Deborah. Do you believe that we have a problem in Guyana where, as it relates to ethnic divide?
I have an example, and I have evidence towards it. It's not to make up something or hearsay, but I had applied at one of the banks in Guyana they had a vacancy, and I applied there. It was me and my aunt, so I took the application to the manager. He looked over his glass window. It was an Indian person. He looked over his glass window, and he said, is it you or the girl or the lady out there sitting for the job? I was like, no, I'm here for the job. This is my application. And then he was like, okay, and he sat slowly. He opened my application, he read what he had to read, and he turned it down. Now, he didn't state it, but what's not stated is being implied. And I could have seen from his physical appearance that, oh, you don't belong here. I thought it was that person because my aunt has the same race as him. So point blank, I could have seen that I have no place in his bank, or I have no place working in his bank because of his physical feelings that he gives to me or his expression that he gives to me. So I think we need to get away from this thing. We all are one. It's just that we are born different. All of us can't be one, or we can't born with the same physical appearance. But when the end of the day comes and we cut, each and every one of us is the same blood that runs out of us. So I think we need to hold one head as a country, as a society, and work together towards it and make it be one. If that happens, I think our country can be a better place.
Okay. I want to deal with it, though, in terms of the youth, how the youths are dealing with it. I mean, recently I've had a conversation with another group of youths who believe that, okay, racism, it may have been passed down in a sense. Unfortunately, it may have become a part of our culture, but there's also this perception that that's not necessarily true among the youths. I mean, how do you feel about that? And Ainsley, I'm going to come to you on your thoughts on whether it's prevalent among youths, if it's something that we've inherited, if the adults still deal with that.
Well, I think it's a generation something. Because when I'm growing up, you will hear elder people say, black people, they like talk, they this, they down to earth, black people is this, black people is that. If person, they would have achieved this, they would have get this house, they would have get this, they would. So I guess it's a generation something, right? It's moved down from one level to the other, to the other, and to the other. But I think that we can stop it if we wanted to stop. We could cut that generation curse off, because we can, whatever we want to happen, we can see it happen, we need to work towards it. And I think we can get away from that and know that we all are one. If we want to achieve a house, don't matter if you're black, you're Portuguese, you're Amerindian, you're Indian, you will achieve whatever you want to achieve. So I think it's a generation something, but it can be cut out if we want it to cut out.
Okay, all right. Ainsley, your thoughts?
Yeah, well, quite frankly, I believe that racism it's present. It's not going to go away. Nowhere in this world is there zero racism. Maybe in a perfect world, yes, but In this world, no. And quite frankly, here in Guyana, the racial divide is clearly between the Indo-Guyanese and the Afro-Guyanese. And it's been there since Guyana's history. And it's been passed down. Even onto today, there are cases of racism. Now, many youths have been saying, I've heard people say that, oh, we young people, we don't look at that. The issue of racism, it's always going to exist, it's always going to be with us. But we have the power of choice. We just have to control ourselves, exercise great self-control, and not allow our thoughts to overwhelm us, and allow that to have any, what's the word I'm looking for? Just not allow it to interfere with our way of thinking and the way we, exactly.
Okay. More with our youth panel when we return. Stay tuned.